I was positioned exactly where he wanted me, the studio lights casting a warm glow across my skin. His camera clicked in steady rhythm, but I could feel something shifting between us with every shot. The way his eyes lingered just a moment too long when he lowered the camera, the subtle catch in his breath when I adjusted my pose. This wasn't just about capturing the perfect image anymore. There was electricity building in the space between us, charged and undeniable. "Turn your shoulder slightly," Nathan murmured, his voice lower than before. His fingers gestured in the air, guiding my movement without quite touching me. But I wish they would. The fabric of my dress shifted against my skin as I moved, and I caught the way his gaze followed every curve, every shadow the light created. The studio felt smaller suddenly, more intimate, like we were the only two people who had ever existed. In this moment, his next direction came softer, more personal. "Perfect. You're absolutely perfect." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning that went beyond photography. I felt heat bloom across my chest, spreading upward to my cheeks. This session was supposed to be professional, but something was awakening between us that neither of us could ignore. Before we dive deeper, take a quick second to like this and hit subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The Brooklyn studio had become our private world over the past 2 hours. Nathan's reputation as a photographer was impeccable, his portfolio filled with stunning portraits that captured not just beauty, but soul. When my agent booked this session, I'd expected professionalism, maybe some creative collaboration. What I hadn't expected was the way my pulse quickened every time he stepped closer to adjust the lighting, or how his quiet compliments sent warmth radiating through my entire body. "Brianna," he said, setting his camera aside on the nearby table, "can you lean back against the backdrop? Let your hair fall naturally over your shoulder." His voice carried a new quality, rougher around the edges, like he was fighting to maintain his composure. I did as he asked, feeling the cool fabric of the backdrop against my bare shoulders. My dress, a flowing piece in deep emerald that complemented my skin tone, had been chosen specifically for this shoot. But now, under Nathan's intense gaze, it felt like the most intimate garment I'd ever worn. "That's it," he breathed, lifting his camera again. The shutter clicked rapidly, capturing moment after moment. "You're natural. Most models try too hard, but you—" He paused, lowering the camera to meet my eyes directly. "You just exist beautifully." The compliment hit me like a physical touch, sending a shiver down my spine that I couldn't hide. Nathan noticed. Of course he did. His job was to notice everything, to capture the subtle emotions that crossed his subjects' faces. But the way he was looking at me now suggested he was seeing much more than just another model. "Are you cold?" he asked, though we both knew the studio was perfectly warm. "No," I replied honestly. "Just affected by the atmosphere you create." Something shifted in his expression, a recognition passing between us. The professional boundary we'd been maintaining began to blur at the edges. He set his camera down again, this time moving closer, close enough that I could catch the subtle scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. "The light is incredible on you right here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I think we could try something more intimate." The way he said the word intimate sent heat pooling low in my stomach. "What did you have in mind?" I asked, surprised by how breathless I sounded. Instead of answering immediately, Nathan reached up to adjust a strand of my hair that had fallen across my collarbone. His fingers barely grazed my skin, but the contact sent electricity shooting through my entire nervous system. He must have felt it too, because his hand lingered there, thumb tracing the lightest path along the edge of my shoulder. "Maybe we should take a break," he suggested, but neither of us moved away. "Or maybe," I said, feeling bold in a way that surprised me, "we should explore this new direction." The air between us crackled with possibility. Nathan's hand was still resting against my shoulder, and I could feel the warmth of his palm through the thin fabric of my dress. When I tilted my head slightly, encouraging his touch, he didn't pull away. "Brianna," he said, my name sounding different in his voice now, laden with want. "Are you sure about this?" Instead of answering with words, I reached up to cover his hand with mine, pressing it more firmly against my skin. The gesture was small, but it communicated everything I couldn't say aloud. Yes, I was sure. Yes, I wanted to see where this energy between us would lead. His other hand came up to frame my face, thumb brushing across my cheek with reverent care. "You're so beautiful," he murmured, and this time it wasn't a photographer's observation, it was a man's confession. When he leaned in, I met him halfway. Our lips touched softly at first, tentative, questioning. But when I responded by pressing closer, the kiss deepened into something that made my knees weak. His mouth was warm and sure, tasting faintly of coffee and something sweeter. My hands found their way to his chest, feeling the solid warmth of him beneath his button-down shirt. We broke apart slowly, both breathing harder than before. Nathan's eyes searched mine, looking for any sign of hesitation. he wouldn't find any. What he would find was a woman who had been waiting for exactly this moment without even realizing it. "There's a more private area behind the backdrop," he said quietly. "If you'd like." I nodded, not trusting my voice. He took my hand, fingers intertwining with mine as he led me to a secluded corner of the studio. Behind the large white backdrop was a comfortable seating area he'd created, plush cushions arranged on a Persian rug, soft lighting that created an intimate ambiance. It was clearly a space where he came to think, to plan his shoots, maybe to decompress after long sessions. Now it would become the setting for something entirely different. Nathan turned to face me, his hands resting lightly on my waist. "We don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with," he said, ever the gentleman even as desire darkened his eyes. "I know," I replied, reaching up to begin unbuttoning his shirt. "But I want to." My fingers worked slowly, deliberately, revealing inch by inch of his chest. He was beautifully built, lean but strong, with just enough definition to make my mouth go dry. When I splayed my hands across his bare chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath my palms, he sucked in a sharp breath. "Your turn," he said, voice rough with barely contained want. His hands found the zipper at the back of my dress, sliding it down with agonizing slowness. The fabric pooled at my feet, leaving me in nothing but delicate lace undergarments that suddenly felt like far too much clothing. Nathan's gaze traveled over my newly exposed skin with an intensity that made me feel like a work of art, which I supposed was exactly how he saw the world. "Incredible," he breathed, hands tracing the curves of my waist, my hips, with the same attention to detail he brought to his photography. Every touch was purposeful, designed to capture not just the physical reality of my body, but the essence of the moment itself. When he lowered me onto the cushions, I felt like I was floating. His mouth found mine again, this kiss hungrier than the first, full of the passion we'd been holding back. His lips traveled from my mouth to my neck, placing soft kisses along my collarbone that made me arch beneath him. "You feel so good," I whispered, my hands tangling in his dark hair. He lifted his head to look at me, eyes dark with desire but still tender. "Are you sure about this? Really sure?" In response, I pulled him down to me, showing him with my body what my words might not adequately convey. I was more than sure. I was desperate for this connection, this intimacy that had been building between us from the moment he first looked at me through his camera lens. Nathan's touch was reverent, almost worshipful as he explored my body. His photographer's eye for beauty translated into an intuitive understanding of how to make me respond, where to focus his attention to draw the sweetest sounds from my lips. When his mouth found the sensitive spot where my neck met my shoulder, I couldn't suppress a soft sound of pleasure. "I love the sounds you make," he murmured against my skin. "They're like music." His hands moved with increasing confidence, reading my responses like visual cues, adjusting his technique based on what made me tremble, what made my breath catch. It was like being the subject of the most intimate photo shoot imaginable, where every caress was perfectly composed to capture maximum beauty. When he paused to look at me, I felt completely seen in a way that went beyond the physical. "You're absolutely stunning," he said, and I believed him completely. I reached for him then, wanting to give him the same pleasure he was giving me. My hands explored the hard planes of his chest, the taut muscles of his shoulders, learning the geography of his body with the same attention he'd been paying to mine. When I found the belt of his pants, his breath hitched audibly. "Brianna," he said, my name a prayer on his lips. "Please," I whispered back, and that single word contained all the permission he needed. What followed was a dance of discovery, each of us learning the other's rhythms, preferences, the subtle cues that signaled pleasure. Nathan was a generous lover, patient and attentive, seemingly more concerned with my experience than his own. But I was equally determined to make this memorable for him. The studio lights cast everything in a golden glow, making our skin luminous, transforming our coupling into something that felt both earthly and transcendent. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered endearment felt like it was being captured by some invisible camera, preserved in memory with perfect clarity. When I guided him closer, when our bodies finally joined in the most intimate way possible, the sensation was overwhelming. He filled me completely, perfectly, like we'd been designed specifically for this moment. We moved together slowly at first, savoring the connection, building a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing. "You feel incredible," Nathan groaned, his forehead pressed against mine as we moved together. I could only respond with soft sounds of agreement, too lost in sensation to form coherent words. The way he touched me, the way he moved with me, made every nerve ending sing with pleasure. It was better than anything I'd imagined when I'd first felt that spark of attraction between us. Our pace increased gradually, driven by mounting desire and the need to get closer, deeper, more connected. Nathan's hands gripped my hips, guiding my movements as I rose to meet him. The friction between us was exquisite, building pressure that I knew would eventually become release. Right there, I breathed when he found exactly the right angle, the right rhythm. Don't stop. He didn't. If anything, he became more focused, more determined to take me over the edge. His mouth found mine again, swallowing my increasingly urgent sounds as pleasure built to an almost unbearable peak. When climax finally claimed me, it was with an intensity that left me shaking. Waves of sensation crashed over me, making me cling to Nathan like he was my anchor in a storm of pleasure. He followed moments later, my name on his lips as his own release overtook him. We lay entwined afterward, skin damp with perspiration, hearts gradually slowing to normal rhythms. The studio around us felt different now, no longer just a workspace, but the site of something transformative. That was, Nathan began, then trailed off, apparently at a loss for words. Amazing, I finished for him, smiling up at his face. Definitely amazing. He brushed a strand of hair away from my face with infinite tenderness. I don't usually mix business with pleasure like this. Neither do I admitted. But sometimes the right moment just happens. We dressed slowly, reluctantly, both seeming to understand that putting our clothes back on meant returning to reality. But the energy between us hadn't diminished. If anything, it had intensified, charged now with the knowledge of what we were capable of together. Nathan walked me to the door of the studio, his hand warm against the small of my back. Before I left, he pressed a business card into my hand. My personal number is on the back, he said quietly, in case you'd like to explore this further. I looked down at the card, then back up at his face. The professional photographer was still there, but now I could also see the man underneath, the one who had just shared something incredible with me. I'll call you, I promised, and meant it completely. As I stepped out into the Brooklyn evening, I felt different, changed. The photo shoot had captured something neither of us had expected, not just images, but a connection that promised much, more to come. Back in my apartment later that night, I looked at Nathan's card again, remembering every moment of our encounter. Tomorrow, I would call him. Tonight, I would relive every perfect second of what had happened between us. The photos from our session would probably be beautiful, but the real masterpiece had been created not by his camera, but by our bodies, our connection, our willingness to let professional boundaries dissolve into something much more meaningful. Some sessions capture beauty, others capture souls. Ours had captured something even rarer, the exact moment when two people recognize they're meant to create art together, both in the studio and beyond it. So tell me, have you ever found yourself in a situation where professional boundaries just melted away? When chemistry became too strong to ignore? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your stories. Don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.